us in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Before we get started here, I was asked that evidently we have some fans out in TV land that can't understand some of us when we're talking, so be sure and speak into the microphone for them. I don't think that was Mr. Jordan, but it might have been somebody. You never know when Hollywood is watching. Okay, approval of the agenda.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next will be visitors, and we have Kayla Houghton, is that right? Okay, from Cumberland River Compact. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Mikhail Houghton from the Cumberland River Compact. I am the executive director, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all tonight about the Sam Davis Dam removal on Stewart's Creek next to Smyrna Elementary School. To give you a little context, the Cumberland River Compact has been removing low-head dams for about 8 years. Last year, we won Governor Lee's Environmental Stewardship Award for a series of dam removal projects that we did. I'd like to clarify that this project began when the Sam Davis Memorial Home Association reached out to the Cumberland River Compact on July 1st, 2015. Steve Murphy was then and is now a board member. He called to express the board's concern that the dam might be a public safety and liability hazard. There had been instances of children crossing from the school property over to the memorial home property. The dam is crumbling, breached, and eroding on the Smyrna Elementary School side of the property. And the association reached out to the compact because they hoped that we could take out the dam at no cost to them through grant funding. Once the board expressed their support for the project through a unanimous vote, I began to reach out to the other landowners, including the school board and the city of Smyrna, and had meetings with them about the dam removal. Over the past 4 years, all landowners have remained supportive of the project. In the past couple months, we've received permitting for the project and approval from the Tennessee Department of the Environment, as well as the Historic Commission. I lastly wanted to take a minute to clarify that this project is funded through our in lieu fee compensatory mitigation program. This program generates money. Any money that's left at the end of the project is reinvested in stream health of Stewart's Creek and the area, and stream stewardship. We are a nonprofit organization, so we do not take any of the profits. We've expressed our desire to the school board in our conversations to reinvest that money in environmental enrichment and education at Smyrna Elementary School. I know we're time constrained, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions in the future, should you have any about the dam removal project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, please. You said 2 or 3 times that you met with and approached the school board.
The school district.
Beg pardon?
The school district.
Well,
the
that's us.
facilities folks. And then I misspoke if I said the school board. I spoke with the school district to gauge the school district's support and as well as the attorney for the school district. The dam is on Sam Davis property, so but it was important to get the support of all the landowners to Sam Davis Road.
And I apologize for maybe not being clear, but now you said school district, which again is us. I don't understand who you met with, is my point, or what they said.
Mr. Jordan,
Yes,
if I may.
please.
This started with Mr. Clardy some years back. Last year, Ms. Houghton reached back out to me after some time. I did meet with her to find out what the understanding was of the project and what our implications were. We did receive an easement agreement, which I sent to Ms. Page, and then we sent on to Mr. Reed for his review. I have not received that back, his comments or anything, so we have not brought that forward to you as of yet, because I'm not a lawyer, so they have still reviewing the easement as far as I understand. But I understand the project. I have met with her and have reviewed it, but until I had understanding from Mr. Reed on what this easement meant, I have not brought it to you all for voting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure, I apologize for misspeaking.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, on use of facilities, from now on, this will be under the consent agenda unless there is something that the board needs to vote on. We gave our director of schools the authority to approve these. So, if there's any questions on it, be glad to listen to them. But that'll be changed as of the next meeting. Okay. On the presentation of plans for opening schools, if you have any questions on that we went over the other night.
Let me go over a couple of things. I gave you the emergency management breakdown. I have been working with the State Department of Ed through Senator Reeves, and I did get some data back today. However, it wasn't what I requested, so I've put in another call. They are going to be providing me what I want, which is Rutherford County school-aged children between the ages of 5 and 18 that have either, that have had the virus, if they've recovered, if they've been hospitalized, and so forth, or if they're still active. I anticipate getting it, but this right here, that I gave you is from the 17th, but Mr. Krim brought me the updated, and just to touch on a few things, we still are seeing overall in Rutherford County, we're still seeing more confirmed cases. And, for example, there's 37 been added between Wednesday and Thursday. And there have been 20 that were recovered. So we're still, we're still having more that are coming on than are recovering. However, we also know that the big thing that we look at is hospital beds available. And I think the one I gave you guys was St. Thomas Rutherford, 69, and Stonecrest with 83. The one that I received from Mr. Krim just a few minutes ago, St. Thomas Rutherford is at 56, Stonecrest is at 88. So we're still within those boundaries. There was another thing that was provided to us in terms of, I think it's on the second page, and that was, for those that have loved ones in our health care facilities or nursing homes, the threshold there is 12.30 for every 100,000 Tennesseans. That means you're okay and you can visit. And of course, currently right now, our average is 36.29 for every 1,000 Rutherford County. So we're way over, not quite as bad as some of the other counties that surround us, like the larger ones, like Davidson County. I do know that even though we went up to 1,888 cases that were confirmed, Hamilton County is surpassing us very quickly. So I think the more testing we do, we're going to see that. The other thing was that we did get some update on some legislation. I'd like for Ms. Page to go over a little bit, and it pertains to COVID-19.
Sure. Right now, currently pending, we had the Senate last week voted on a bill. It was a caption bill made by an amendment that would extend liability protection to school districts, amongst other organizations, nonprofits, and different medical providers, and different facilities, nursing facilities. And it creates an incredibly high bar of proof if someone were to try to sue the school district for alleging that they were injured in some way by being exposed to COVID-19. The Senate passed that bill last week, and the House adopted it yesterday. But there is a difference in the bills that I'll talk about in a minute. But the bills are substantially similar in their substance. They will both generally give the same protections. What the standard would be someone would have to prove that by a clear and convincing level of proof that the school district did not acted with gross misconduct or willful misconduct. Those are incredibly hard standards to prove. You have to show more than 50%. If you're looking at normally when you talk about a case preponderance of the evidence, you're trying to prove a scale that it's about a little more than 50% you're going to win. Clear and convincing is a higher standard than normal in a normal civil action. And then to prove someone acted gross is to say that they acted so beyond what a normal person would do that it was obscene almost. And willful, that standard there means intentional, which is an incredibly hard bar in any civil case to meet. There's also a built-in presumption in this law that as long as we're showing substantial compliance with health regulations, there's a presumption that we were not grossly negligent or acting willfully. So it double protects us in that way. On top of that, we already have government protection statutes that exist that also add to that to protect us. Now, where we're at now is the House has passed a bill that is not retroactive in its application. There's concerns from the House that making it retroactive would make it unconstitutional. So the House is saying, no, from the day of passage, that's when protection will come into effect. The Senate said, no, we want it to go back to March 5th. We want people who have suits now, we want those districts and those individuals to have that protection. So now they have to decide, what are they going to do? So they've formed the committees. The Senate's already got a committee. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure where the House is. I believe they'll eventually have to have committees, so we can predict that that's what they'll do. And then they'll have to figure that out. Does it grandfather or does it not? But I think we've got a pretty good chance that we will see this protection pass if that is truly the issue at stake, is really just retroactive application. So it's a good news for us as a district. It gives us a good standard, and we've been telling principals from day one, we want you to do your absolute best. And by having that presumption of substantial compliance, I view that as a legal way of saying doing your absolute best. So I think that we're in good shape going forward, and we'll just have to keep that up and keeping our principals informed of what the expectations are and checking with them to make sure they're doing it. And that should offer some peace of mind, hopefully not only to our teachers and to our principals and to you all, but to the taxpayers as well as to our kids in our schools. So I think this overall is good for us.
Question for you, Ms. Page. Did I understand correctly, are there actually school districts that have had suits filed against them?
I'm not aware of any myself.
Well, something you said earlier made it sound as if perhaps that was the case. So
There are certain businesses and other entities that are encompassed in this bill that there may be suits against. That might be why that retroactive piece is there. Or there may be a school district I'm just not aware of, but I've not heard of that yet.
I think we probably would have heard about it. So.
I would hope so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask Ms. Page, from our understanding, when Ms. Johnson and I were at the TSBA, they were speaking about it, and this is not, new. We already have some laws on the books that cover the common cold and some other things that are communicable at the schools. So just for the general public's knowledge, can you tell them what some of the other blanket protection is from?
Absolutely. We already enjoy protection under the Tennessee Governmental Tort Liability Act, and it offers very broad protection for acts that would be deemed regular negligence. So, mistakes happen. We are a big district. There's a lot of moving parts, and at the end of the day, we're offering a public service to the best of our abilities. So that law was passed to say we're going to offer you, school district, a little level extra protection in case people bring frivolous suits against you, or suits that are, for situations where we didn't act willfully, or we weren't so out of line with norms that the court needs to step in. So we do get a blanket level of protection in some suits where the courts will throw out certain suits. It's going to be negligence, so that's a lower bar than that gross negligence and that willful misconduct. So the argument for this bill of why it may matter. There's Democrats on the floor when they were trying to pass amendments said the Government Tort Liability Act already does this. We don't need to do it. But for the difference, from my perspective at least, speaking just as our attorney, when I would talk to principals, negligence and gross negligence and willful misconduct, very different standards. So this would offer broader protection, but we do have that baseline protection from simple errors.
Other diseases would be like the common cold or chicken pox or something like that. So that's what I'm trying.
Yes, and flu, for example. We get kids with flu all the time, and we're not going to be sued because kids caught flu at the school. That would be considered regular practice.
Just to follow up a little bit, I think that the intention of this is to be proactive in the beginning, because if I don't know if anyone knows exactly about the virus, or if they do, it changes daily. So I think this is to be proactive in the allowing schools to make decisions that are to the best interest of the teachers and the kids, with no fear of reprisal of lawsuits.
On the contracts, since we read them Tuesday night, would it be okay with the board if I read the headline and Mr. Spurlock read the motion?
Please.
Is that okay? Is that okay with everybody? Okay. First will be the contract agreement with the Wesley Foundation of Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
All right, motion to approve the lease and rental agreement of the house located at 1607 Elrod Street from August the 1st of 2019 through July the 31st of 2020 at $1,450 per month. This rental, which includes the use of the Wesley Foundation, will provide continuing location at MTSU for the community-based transition academy for 18 to 22-year-olds with cognitive and developmental disabilities. The cost not to exceed $17,400 for a period of 12 months will be paid from the IDEA Part B Special Education Funds.
Okay, do we have a motion on that?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
I do have a question, Chairman. Have we ever looked at buying this house? I know we've been renting this house for quite a while. Are there any options on buying it?
Any options on buying it? I don't think we've ever entertained that. They do other things other than.
I'm just curious, because I know we've been in a contract with these guys for quite a while, so it's just something I'd like to ask.
Anyone else? Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lease agreement with Lexa.
This agreement is to purchase reading intervention, student license, and training to address students with disabilities with deficits in reading. The district plans to purchase 1,600 student license with training and support. The cost should not exceed $58,400 to be paid with IDEA Part B Special Education Funds. Motion to approve the purchase of Lexia student license, training not to exceed $58,400 to be paid with IDEA Part B special education funds.
Have a motion? Thank you. Second?
Second?
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, contractual agreement with Bedford County Department of Education.
All right, this is for one deaf ed student in Bedford County. This agreement is with Bedford County Department of Ed. The services have been provided in the past. The Bedford County Department of Education will reimburse Rutherford County $135 per day for the 2020-2021 school year. Motion to approve the contractual agreement with Bedford County Department of Education to provide deaf education services for the 2020-2021 school year.
Have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Lease and service agreement for Insights to Behavior Software.
This agreement is for the district site license for behavior intervention software, which includes training modules for staff, behavioral tracking data collection tools, software to assist teachers and staff in documentation required for behavioral intervention students at a cost of $97,500 using transfer out funds budgeted through the IDEA Part B for comprehensive coordinated early intervention services. Motion to approve the license and service agreement for Insights to Behavior Software District Site License to address disproportionality of discipline for students with special needs using transfer out funds budgeted through the IDEA Part B for CCEIS not to exceed $97,500 for the 2020-21 school year.
Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Contractual agreement with Special Kids Incorporated.
All right, this motion is to approve the contractual agreement with Special Kids, Inc., not to exceed $25,000 during the 2020-21 school year, and it will be paid from the general purpose, the GP's Special Education Funds.
Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Questions? Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Lease agreement with Image Learning.
Yeah, this is for our math special education services. Motion to approve the purchase of Imagine Learning license and training not to exceed $12,500 to be paid with IDA Part B special education funds.
Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move on to curriculum instruction.
All right, Dr. Sullivan went over our virtual school information the other night in terms of our name, colors, so forth in the application. Motion to approve the Rutherford County virtual school name, color, and mascot and application as presented.
Have a motion on that?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Curriculum instruction, adult ed virtual school.
Just a reminder, this was the reallocation of a position, changing of the number of days, but with a savings of 50-something thousand. So we're very good that we're able to do that. Motion to approve the reallocation of adult ed lead teacher to adult ed lead teacher and virtual school counselor. An additional 60 days will be added to the contract instead of hiring an additional position, thus saving $50-something thousand.
Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. curriculum and instruction online learning specialist to virtual school principal.
Yeah, this is another example of a repurposing of a position in which we actually save money. We're taking this position of our current online learning specialist who has a 260-day contract and turning it into a virtual school principal position with a 240-day contract with an index of 1.25 and with a significant amount of savings. Motion to approve the reallocation of the RCS online learning specialist position to virtual school principal.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, curriculum and instruction federal programs.
Yeah, this is where we use some of our title money, Title II, I think it is money that in order to allocate for curriculum leads in the schools. We've reduced the number this year, but we've upped the pay a little bit from $500 to $800. Each participant will receive that $800 stipend for attendance for 10 days total, and each school is allocated accordingly. Motion to approve allocation, approximately $200,000 of Title II funds to support curriculum leads at each school to develop instructional capacity of teachers and to support the PLC process. Each participant receives $800 stipend for attendance and participation in monthly meetings, professional development sessions led by curriculum and instruction for a grand total of 10 days. Schools allocated number of participants based on the school structure to support TCAP tested areas.
Okay, do we have a motion? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's go to the financial matters, 141.
If the board would entertain this, we would like to do the two amendments, roll those in together, and the single one by itself with centralized cafeteria budget amendment.
Is that all right with everyone? Okay.
All right, this cleanup budget amendment increases 2019-20 revenues by $2,599,257 and uses $649,000 for the 2019-2020 expenditures. The largest of these expenditures is for additional laptop computers and online enrollment software, with some of the cost being reimbursed next fiscal year from the CARES Act funds. Additional payroll line item increases are for accrued leave payouts from long-term employees who are retiring at the fiscal year end. Next one, in accordance with federal requirements, the centralized cafeteria fund cannot absorb the cost for unpaid student meal debt at the fiscal year end. After the receipt of large amounts of donations and tremendous efforts by the individual school bookkeepers and the cafeteria managers, the balance for unpaid student meal bad debt for 2019-2020 fiscal year has been reduced from $235,000 to $242,000 to the current year-end balance of $156,313. Motion to approve these two amendments as presented.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments on them? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fund 143.
All right, this is
cafeteria.
centralized cafeteria 2019-2020 budget amendments. This is a year-end cleanup amendment. It adjusts expenditure line items to true up the non-payroll expenditures, as well as the small payroll line item adjustments in case of fiscal year accrued leave payouts from full-time cafeteria staff retirements or terminations. Motion to approve the amendment of 2019-2020 centralized cafeteria fund budget by adjusting the expenditures by $179,000 as presented.
We have a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, board meeting schedule.
I guess I'll speak up because I've spoke up the last two meetings, but I'm still prepared or whatever you want to call it. I really think we need to look at possibly trying to do without the work sessions, and I guess I've realized a little bit more since the last meeting when we got to talking about our plans of going back this fall. And the kind of money we're going to be talking about, that I know us dropping a meeting or two meetings or whatever, it's not going to help a whole lot, but every little bit helps. You know, I think we're going to, and I hope it doesn't happen this way, but with this bus situation and everything in the fall, you know, I don't know which way that's going to go, but you know, I'd like to see us try to do without the work sessions. And I talked to Mr. Spurlock this afternoon and asked him if he thought it was, you know, possible to do it, and he felt good about it. So I would like also see us, anytime you consolidate any meetings, consolidate them, if it's going to save any money. But you know, if we have to have a motion, I'll make a motion. But I'd like to see it. Let's try it anyhow. If you want me to put it in a motion, I'll put it in motion to let's do away with the work sessions. Try just going one meeting. Hopefully everybody will do the preparation before they get here. Any questions? Try to call the staff, find out. But another thing to think about is the staff, you know, coming, you know, extra times. So I imagine they probably get tired of it, have to be here, even though we're compensated for it. You know, it's their duty, I guess. So my motion would be to try to cut the work sessions out.
Yeah. Your motion is to do away with the work sessions, correct?
Correct.
We have a second?
I'll second that, but I would like to amend it, Mr. Hodge, if you don't mind. I'd like for us to even look at even the committee meetings. I think us school board members can waive any pay, no pay, for any committee meetings that we signed up volunteer for. So I'd like to amend it to that, along with your motion, if you're inclined to do that.
I'm fine with it. I mean, I can drop my motion. You can make all one motion if you want to. I'm good either way.
And the motion would be to do away with work sessions and not get paid for committee meetings.
Any committee meetings that we may have signed up for, volunteered for.
So the motion would be no work sessions and not be paid for committee meetings. Okay? So we need a motion on that, correct?
Well, yeah, just from procedure standpoint, you have one motion, which is a motion, I understand, to do away with work sessions. So that's the motion that was made on the floor of Mr. Hodge. I understand Mr. Young seconded that motion, but you're now trying to amend it. You can't do a second and amend all the same time. So if you're wanting to second it and then you want to make a later amendment to it, that can be something that's entertained, or you can do a separate motion even to the point that you're trying to get at.
All right. I just withdraw my motion, correct?
You can withdraw your motion, then there'd be no motion on the floor at that point.
Right. He can make his motion, whatever he wants to do.
So
You want to keep it simple?
are you withdrawing your motion then?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, so Mr. Hodge has withdrawn his motion. And there's no motion on the floor as we stand right now.
So now, Young can make the motion.
The floor is open for whatever motions or the board wants to entertain.
What about discussion, Mr. Reed?
You can just, if
I
you
have a
want.
question on Mr. Hodges' previous motion, because I think we need to be not so ambiguous about it. I mean, and Mr. Hodge, I understand where you're going with this, but the way you presented the motion was we would try to do away with work sessions. And again, kind of going back to the conversation we had the other night, the work session, I am absolutely all for consolidating meetings, work sessions, wherever we possibly can. But I think a vote that's going to go down in record to do away with them completely, again, I think it's a bit short-sighted, because I think there may be times where we have meetings come up where a work session, because of what's involved in the content of that agenda, very well could be necessary, so.
Well, we can take out the try, I mean, as far as that goes, and basically just eliminate them. Then
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, if somebody wants to add it back in, we'll vote it back in.
Well, I don't know that to try it would necessarily require a motion and a vote, would it?
But we're taking out the try part. I've already withdrawn my motion.
May I ask a question? Mr. Reed, we talked about this at another board meeting previously. We don't have to have board work sessions. So could we not handle this by the chairman, and when we're putting the calendar together, we just have a board meeting, and if we needed to have a work session, I think to Ms. Moore's point, I agree with her. Do we need to do it this way, or
The
can
chairman
we make
does,
that?
if the chairman does have authority to not have a work session, should he decide or she decide as chairperson that a work session is not needed.
If a board member needed to have a work session or thought they needed a work session, they could contact the chairman and ask for that, and that would be between the chairman and that board member.
That is correct, yes.
I guess, that's really what I'm saying is, I think just the fact that we've had this conversation and that we're all I believe, in agreement anyway, there's a couple that haven't spoken, that we definitely should look at consolidating and cutting back meetings, again, where possible, but to actually put something to a vote committing that that's the way we're going to do it when there are those other possibilities out there, and as Ms. Johnson said, leaving it up to the chairman, I don't think it's necessary for a vote, but that's my 2 cents.
Whatever we do, I want us to basically try to do something at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and I think we've all concurred that we agree we should cut back on meetings wherever possible or consolidate them, but I just don't think it's necessary to make a formal motion. Again, I think it'd be discretionary on the part of our chairman.
I don't have, like I said, if that's what the consensus is, but I'm also in agreement with Mr. Young as far as talking about committee meetings.
Well, I think that's a whole different topic than board meetings and work sessions, so.
All right, they're all paid meetings, correct?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about, trying to cut money.
I didn't say anything at all.
No, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
We're trying to cut money. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so
There's,
just cancel work sessions unless we're needed, right? Or call them.
correct.
Okay.
If that's what I'm hearing, that seems to be a consensus, most of the board members anyway, as a matter of procedure just going forward. And of course, if that does not work out and people want to change that, it can come back to the board, you can just discuss it, and if you want to reinstitute work sessions, you can reinstitute work sessions. If there is a board member who really feels strongly we should have a work session that one has not been scheduled for, they contact the chairman and then decide whether the chairman can make a decision whether to have a work session or not.
I would like to make a motion at this time that we do not get paid for any committee meetings.
And I would second Mr. Young's motion on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what'd you say?
I said I would second Mr. Young's motion on that.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the motion was a motion for board members to not get paid for attendance at committee meetings of the Board of Education. And that was what was seconded.
Correct.
There'd be a motion and a second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second that board members do not get paid for committee meetings. Is there any other comment on it? Do we need to call the roll on this?
I would go ahead and call roll.
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Estes?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? And this may be a Mr. Reed question again. Since all of this is done in effort to try to reduce the expenditures and the cost of the activities that we do, I spoke to a legislator today who indicated that there may be some way that we could draft up a resolution of some kind, either with the county commission or separate from the county commission. Is there some other vehicle that we can use to eliminate the excessive pay that we receive outside of the inaction of the county commission?
You know, we'll have to go back and look at that because, you know, the school board is kind of tied in right now with the county commission. So it might require some action on the county commission level to allow us to do that. But if that's something the board wants us to pursue, we can look at with regard to what options are available for that. And might be, there's a lot of private acts that govern the county government. Right. So it might require an amendment to the private act. It's premature for me to say that tonight. I'd have to look at it and see. But if it's something that the board's interested in us pursuing, I can definitely do that and report back to you what options might be available in that regard.
I would appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, if we can explore that option. As I expressed before, we're here as servants. When our teachers aren't getting pay raises and we are looking at $1 million a month for transportation, we don't know where we're at with this situation. So any cost savings, I think we should explore.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
I'll look at options and report back to the board on that.
Thank you.
Okay, on the work sessions, since we're not going to schedule them, I'll do my best to warn everybody at least a week in advance if we have to have one.
Now, and Mr. Estes, to that point too, your idea the other night or your suggestion about maybe doing kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of an active agenda. In other words, if there's something that we know, a week and a half in advance that is absolutely going to be on the agenda, that it can be interactive. That way, if anybody on the board has a question about something, we can reach out to Mr. Spurlock, or we can reach out to you, or we can reach out to Mr. Votary, if it's financial related. And that way, it helps us better prepare, which I think would be very, very wise if we're doing away with the work sessions, if that makes sense, that we're just kind of having our own individual work sessions as the agenda progresses.
Well, we can also shoot for having the agenda ready. You usually send out 6 days in advance, is that correct? 5, 6, 7 days? Thursday before the next Thursday. Okay. And if we could get it a couple, 3 days earlier, that'll give everybody a chance to look at it. And then would let us know if we needed to have a work session. All right? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Anything else on insurance, Dr. Anthony?
No additional updates.
Thank you. Director's update.
I'm going to go over 3 points that 2 of them we made the other night in terms of how fiscally responsible this board has been over the years. We currently stand at 107 out of 142 school districts as per pupil expenditure. And the other night, I think we went through a savings of over $5 million. It's sad that we don't get those kind of things in the paper. If the paper wants to look at something, look at how we're saving our taxpayers. And I think it's a direct correlation with our school board. They give us the direction, and with an efficient and effective staff that we have, we make things work with what we have. And I think that's a kudos to you guys. The last thing is at a Rotary Club meeting, I think it was last week, I got to talk, and I met this gentleman right here, Mr. Waller, and he requested, I know it was about the thing that was discussed earlier, so if it was all right with the board, I would like for Mr. Waller to come up and talk.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Waller. I'm a resident of Smyrna, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you folks how much I appreciate everything you do for our great county. To sustain and continue on the excellent education program we have here is commendable, and I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure most of the citizens of this county do as well. It's ironic that we're talking about a dam here at the Sam Davis home. This lady here, I represent a group that opposes the destruction of this historical marker. Mr. Wayne Blair hoped to be here with us tonight, but he had a last-minute invitation from his children to go to the coast for Father's Day, so he's headed to Panama City as we speak. But Wayne has been involved in this. Greg Tucker, Marty Luffman, Jenny Williams, a number of local citizens. There was this lady that spoke earlier represents this nonprofit that wants to destroy the dam. There was a public hearing or comment period held back in March. There was one neutral comment. All the rest of them were opposed to destroying it. Everything from recreational value, historical conservation, any number of reasons that we felt like it should be maintained. The Tennessee Department of Conservation approved this request 6 days after the comment period, and 2 of those 6 days were a weekend. So they put together a 26-page document in 3 days, which to me is remarkable for a state employee. But be that as it may, we appealed it based on 2 grounds. The historical relevance of the site and the fact that neither of the landowners, the people that own the dam, were contacted about destroying the dam. As far as historical relevance, and Tiffany, you can help me out here, the Sam Davis home was placed on the National Historic Register in 1969. It was the second location in Rutherford County to be placed on the National Historic Register, only behind Stones River Battlefield. So then the plantation, the grounds, the house, everything is on the historical register. The dam itself is by no means obsolete. It's still functional. Now, it's nearly 100 years old. It was built by a niece of Sam Davis as a reflecting pool. I have some pictures, but I won't belabor your time with them. I do have one slide that I want to show to you that is pertinent because we need your help. I mentioned that neither of the landowners nor the town of Smyrna agreed to the destruction of the dam. The Sam Davis home and Mr. Steve Murphy, who's their chairman, went to this Cumberland River Compact and asked them to develop this plan to destroy the dam, but they never did complete the paperwork and send it in. So at the time that the Department of Conservation and Environment approved it, they did not have any documentation from the Sam Davis Association to destroy the dam. Today, there's only 5 Smyrna residents on the Sam Davis Board and Trustees. They're scattered all over Nashville, Middle Tennessee, Wilson County. Unfortunately, we don't have as much local emphasis in the facility as we need. Now comes to your part. We would like to ask you to consider helping us save this dam. We need, and we're going to have an administrative hearing before a administrative judge that works for the Secretary of State to hear our complaints. Of course, we're going to be working with historical societies, and we come to you asking for a letter, whatever it may be, that you're opposed to destroying the dam. You own half the dam. The dam is on the northeast corner of the old Mingle farm where the Smyrna Elementary School is. And I've got some overviews that the gentleman here can show you later. You can put, well, there it is. But you can't tell much about it. But right at the top of the yellow markings is where the dam is. The school is on the extreme left, and the Sam Davis home is, there you go, right there. The document in question, if you'll go to that slide that shows the matrix there. This document was provided by Mr. Murphy, and I can't tell you when it was dated, but I can tell you that our appeal went to the Commissioner of TDEC on April the 9th. Wayne checked with Mr. Reed and this lady here just prior to that and was assured they weren't even aware of it at the time. Now, I don't know what's happened since April the 9th, but as of April the 9th, according to Wayne Blair, the school board hadn't even been involved. So we would like to have something from you folks to support our claim that we don't destroy the dam. One last issue that has come up since all of this, and some documentation that we've gotten, concerns mitigating credits. And I wouldn't begin to tell you I understand what that is, but apparently there is some value to be gained by destroying the dam. I have a letter here that shows seven different entities, road construction, subdivisions, that are due to receive 3,515 mitigating credits for the destruction of the dam. Again, I can't answer what that is. I hope by the time we get through with our administrative process, we'll learn more about it. But it seems there is some value to be gained by someone from this destruction. I'll be happy to try to answer any of your questions. I won't belabor you at this time. I'll leave my card. Feel free to call me anytime, and thank you again for everything you do.
Thank you. Okay. Is that all you got?
Yes, sir.
Tennessee Legislative Network, Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, of course. A few things. There's actually a lot going on at the legislature, but we're in our final days. I spoke to a couple legislators and their offices. It's moving quickly, obviously. It's unprecedented. I don't even think they have lobbyists up there. A couple bills I wanted to bring to your attention, other than one we spoke to about earlier. If you remember, Representative Charlie Baum had presented House Bill 2122, which would have addressed extra funding for growing communities and growing counties. Obviously, in this current climate, financially, it did not come out of subcommittee. He did a great presentation, though. I was able to watch, and I've spoken with him, and I've asked him to consider bringing it again. He did get some opposition from some of the rural communities, which I can understand to some degree, but at the same time, we're in a unique situation. So that one did not make it out of subcommittee. The other one that caught my attention was the formation, Speaker Pro Tem Bill Dumm in the House Bill 2470. They spoke today or yesterday, I think, about creating a commission that would be a 9-member commission appointed, I think, partly by the Speaker of the House and the governor to explore the impact of the COVID pandemic and how it affected education and the outcome. So I think it's a 2 or 3 year study. It's a commission that will be unpaid. They will not be reimbursed, completely volunteer. But it's my hope that we'll get a lot of good information out of that, not just about what we're experiencing now. There is some concern, obviously, that our students are going to be behind. We're thinking the 3-month period, but I'd be interested to see what comes out of that commission, and hopefully it'll give us some tools to move forward. But those were some pretty insightful pieces of information. Again, I think Monday is what they're shooting for ending session. So,
Thank you.
that's all.
Federal Relation Network, Ms.
Thank you,
Stark?
Mr. Chairman. I didn't really find anything. I know there were some rulings this week on DACA that doesn't really apply to us. But I did find an article that I think we'll all be interested in from the U.S. News and World Reports. And they did a cost study analysis with the School Superintendents Association. And basically, in this article, said that it was going to be $490 per student to cover the PPE and things, wipes and things like that. They also went on to say that, I just lost that page. They also went on to say that for an average school district of about 3,700 students, it would be a total of $1.8 million additional cost. So if anybody wants this article, I'm happy to send it along, but I think that's falling in line with what our transportation and everybody else has already said. There's money that has to be spent, but we don't have it. It's going to be a lot of money.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, general discussion?
Mr. Chairman? Thank you. And I guess perhaps I misunderstood. I thought after the director's presentation the other night at our work session on the reopening options, that we were actually going to be voting on that tonight.
No, I said in July.
In July, okay, very good. Well, I would like to kind of bring something up just for food for thought for during general discussion then as we prepare and get closer to that day, because I know everything's still a moving target. I know that all of my fellow board members have been concerned about this, and it's a very, very difficult subject that we're dealing with. And I've looked at the options, thought about it a lot. Of course, my wish is that we could just open schools, period. But I was struggling with some things with the hybrid situation, or option, I guess, if you will. And although I know all my fellow board members have received this email from this parent, for the sake of our constituents and people that might be watching, parents that are concerned, because obviously this is something that is very, very high on our parents' priority list right now with school-age children, I'd like to take just a couple minutes and read some of the content from this email, because this parent really summed up and articulated, I think, some of the concerns that I've been harboring in a very, very good way. So if you will humor me, I'd appreciate it.
Is that the email that you sent us?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if everyone had gotten it or not, so I just wanted to make sure. It says, "Dear school board members, after watching Tuesday evening's school board meeting, I am concerned about the possibility of planning to utilize a hybrid schooling model for the 2021 school year. As a full-time working parent of 2 elementary school students, I have some concerns I would like to express." She said, "My concerns about the hybrid model impact 3 different groups. They impact students, parents, and teachers. Students, first of all. As Mr. Spurlock stated in the meeting, when school resumes in August, our students will have been out of school for 20 weeks. Even the most diligent parent who tried to keep their student on task throughout the closure is going to have a hard time motivating their students once they get back into the classroom. Students have lost a lot of learning time, and they will need as much time in the classroom to make up that lost instructional time. Students need face time with the teacher to effectively learn, and the teacher needs time with the students to know who's struggling and who needs additional help and support. We cannot expect elementary students to spend 6.5 hours in front of a screen to learn all that they need to know for that grade. They need interactive, personal lessons in a classroom so that they can grasp the material. They also need the social interaction with their friends. In addition, students who have working parents will have to be sent to some sort of group care on their out-of-school days, which increases the likelihood of spreading the illness as much, if not more, than being in school. So for the parents, working parents have been put through the ringer this spring. They've attempted to be full-time parents, employees, and teachers. While school is not supposed to be childcare, the reality is that it is for many families. Parents need the consistency of the school to support their families. Parents are stressed and need the normalcy of school this fall. The likelihood of parents being able to help with 6.5 hours of school each day is slim, especially when they're expected to work. In addition, I know a survey completed by Rutherford County parents showed that a large majority of families have access to internet and a computer, and she raises a really good point here that I actually really haven't thought of. She said, but what about families with more than one child? If the students are expected to be in school for 6.5 hours each day, families will need as many computers as they have students. So for the teachers, I am truly most concerned for our teachers, especially our elementary school teachers. According to the hybrid plan, these teachers would be responsible for teaching a classroom of students, plus supplying 6.5 hours a day for work-at-home students every day. This double load comes with the added bonus of not getting a raise this year and actually taking home less pay due to the insurance increase. After a spring of hearing the general population say we don't pay teachers near enough, as parents have suddenly become teachers, now we will task our most valuable asset with double the work and less pay. That's not to mention that I would guess that a large majority of our teachers are also parents, so they get the added stress of making sure their own families are taken care of while they work double time. I know this is a challenging situation, and I certainly do not presume to know the answers. In fact, I'm glad I don't have to make these types of decisions. However, I hope you will consider my points above, pursue a traditional start to the school year. Rutherford County is very generously offering provisions for those who do not feel safe to attend school yet, But the results of the survey showed that the large majority do feel safe to attend school. Let's give them that opportunity. I appreciate your time and thoughtful consideration of my concerns.
If I could respond, Ms. Moore, I agree with 99.9% of it. The only thing I disagree with is the extra work. The lessons that the teachers would teach would be the same ones that the ones would have online, so it wouldn't be dual lessons.
Good. I appreciate you sharing that because hopefully this parent is watching and will hear that message, so I think that's important. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
The one thing, we have to do what the state tells us to do too. Added into all this, our staff, Mr. Burlock, done a great job coming up with some different plans. We still don't know for sure what the state will tell us.
No, we don't. And I will add that in actuality, now the state will allow the LEA to make that decision. All right, so what we want to do is, and we talked about it previously, we want to make sure, first of all, that we're covered and under tort liability. And I think she made a pretty good explanation of that if it's not egregious. You know, and I think when you start looking at some things, that's where we need our data. That's where we need our data specifically to school-age children. We know, we've heard that, you know, that kids, the ramifications of catching COVID by that age group, if they're not health impaired or if they're not immune compromised, is not going to be as impacted. It's impacted as someone who perhaps is a little older and maybe his health is a little less as good as the child. So those are a lot of things. So as a staff, we want to bring forward to you guys, because that is a strong decision. And I do like and that was the reason why when we were looking over it, I said, you know, options should always be at the forefront. And that's the reason why I said, even if we did a traditional, that those that don't feel comfortable, you know, due to whatever's occurring at that time, we should provide options. But I do think there are some challenges to it. 6.5 hours in front of a computer, whether it's 3 hours, with an hour break, it puts a burden on a lot of different people. I think our biggest thing is we've got to gather all the data together, and as soon as I get it, I will push it out to you, and we keep up with this, and that decision we make, you know, it's made in good faith, and with providing safety for not only our students but also our teachers, and so I guarantee you, when we come back in July, the information that will be put before you will be what it is. Now, obviously, we don't know if all these kids are in our school system, but I would say a majority of them are, because we're the largest as far as enrollment in our county, so a large group it is. So it is a difficult decision, and I do, you know, we're going to, me and my staff are going to provide you with as much information as we possibly can, and you'll notice on the PowerPoint I said as we will adhere to guidelines as much as we can to the extent we can do that. So that's some things you got to take into consideration. We can't add $1 million to our transportation.
And Director, I really appreciate that, and I do want to say and follow this up by saying I shared this email because I think from a parent perspective, this parent raised some very interesting and valid points. I know that you and your staff have been faced with I can't even imagine how this has turned your schedules and the things that you've had to do to comply with and get all of this ready in addition to all your other work. So it is not unnoticed, and it is very, very appreciated. And the procedures to mitigate and the safety measures for the staff, went back over those, and I think those are excellent, and I think that speaks more to, or hopefully that we will get to go back to school.
Absolutely. I think we all would love that.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to add a point. You know, everyone knows that this staff has really stepped up and did an excellent job and even this board, I think, has done a good job as far as what we had to deal with this year, getting all of our employees paid. That was huge. And no one missed a paycheck. And then we've been able to do that and not even add, not even 1% to our budget for this coming year. And we're still looking at ways of saving money. What would be the caveat of all this is we can come back and retro and pay these teachers their raises that they deserve, and all of our other employees. So I'm hoping that somewhere down the near future, we can step back and look at that and see what we can do to make sure everybody's paid.
You know, Mr. Young, in fact, I had a commissioner the night come up to me and made a remark about amending, you know, that looking down the long range, you know, if we have the money there, that we can amend the budget in any time. So I think they're open to that. You know, I know Doug got the sales tax, local sales tax figures, and it was a little over $47,000 less than for the at what we call April than it was last year. But here's the kicker on that we really got to watch. That's based on this fiscal year, and we're adding more students coming forward for the next fiscal year. So that's where we really got to look at and balance our enrollment, what we've added and our expenditures in terms of. But I will tell you, you know, it is our employees, our teachers, our staff. I mean, they've put in a tremendous amount of effort. And I will say this. And I don't know if a lot of you guys got the compliments, but of our classified, who would either call me or send emails to me, and of course I'm thinking they would send it to you, of how appreciative how big a difference that made for them. So I think that the board has really done a great job in a very difficult time.
Anyone else? Okay. Nothing else. Thank everybody for a good meeting. Thank you. We're adjourned.